Welcome to the Limitless Ladies Network podcast, where we are limitless in sharing lessons to advocate and drive insightful, empathetic self-care. The Limitless Ladies Network is dedicated to nourishing minds, educating on self-care, and facilitating transformative experiences. Our mission is to guide women to age with grace, cultivate good health, and build meaningful connections to bring happiness into their lives. We strive to empower the ladies of the community so they may successfully advocate for themselves and embrace a journey of holistic well-being. Please note that the information and opinions shared on this podcast are for educational purposes only and are not intended in any way to be used as medical advice. Please seek a medical professional for any health-related matters, and always refer to our full disclosure in our show notes. Hello, and welcome to today's episode, where we are limitless in sharing lessons to advocate and drive insightful, empathetic self-care. I'm your host, Tammy Dungan, and founder of the Limitless Ladies Network. And I am pleased to have back with me again today, Mel Maichack. Maichack. Always mess up the last names. I admit it. It's a fault. So we just go with it. Founder of Honeybee Jasmine Healing, Mel is a limitless lady that has overcome several obstacles that life has literally just thrown her way. And she's here to share her story with us in hopes that it can inspire other ladies in the community who may be struggling with life's challenges so that they too can find some comfort knowing that they're not alone in their recovery journey. Mel brings a unique blend of lived experience and her professional training to create a healing practice that truly meets people where they are on their wellness journey. Mel is a person in recovery and has healed from various different issues, traumas, substance use, physical injury, and is still healing today. It's a never-ending process. She's a certified yoga instructor, spiritual guide, recovery witch, which I love, RSS, ASDARC, I'm sure there's a way to say that, harm reduction advocate, and multiple pathways educator. So using a combination of her lived experience and professional training, she has a really good innate wisdom in terms of tailoring any healing sessions that she may do with people to really meet them where they are. So welcome back, Mel.
Thank you for having me. I'm super excited, as always, to be here.
I love having our conversations. So we've actually done several different podcasts previously. They're great podcasts on, space clearing, crystals, which I think are great. People can go check those out in our library of podcast episodes. But we have never really, we kind of touched on a little bit in some of our prior episodes on your actual healing journey. So I would love for us to kind of talk a little bit more in depth about how you came into the whole wellness industry and why you're doing what you're doing to help others. So would you like to share some of your experiences with us?
Yeah, I can share pretty much anything. So what I will say is that I'm used to sharing my story in terms of like 12-step recovery or different. I've gone into different recovery places. I've spoken at different mental health retreats. Like I shared before we actually started doing, the recording portion. Um, I love that I can share kind of like a little bit of everything here, and I have so many different pieces. And even though I'm going to try to share everything, I'll probably end up leaving something out. As always, I can't fit every single thing. And I don't necessarily want to always dwell on all of the stuff either, get carried away on every little conversation and every little piece. Cause I mean, just one experience alone, I could probably write a whole book on. So,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah.
So I'll get started. I was born to, a person who was addicted to drugs and alcohol. So I was born addicted to drugs and alcohol. As an infant, I was in the NICU for detox. Before I even, had a chance to kind of get started at life, so to speak. I was already had kind of a situation set up for me. And that's kind of been the the root of a lot of the stuff that's caused me to get on my own healing journey and then kind of get into healing and healing other people. So I'm excited to share with you guys some of this stuff, but some of it is a little bit traumatic. So, like I said, my mom was addicted to drugs and alcohol. She had behavioral health issues, she had mental health issues. As I found out as an adult, a lot of it was ignored by my grandparents, who ended up getting custody of me later on and raising me, which kind of set me up for a lack of success in being able to handle my mental health and my even my physical health, really. Um which I had to change, as an adult and along my own healing journey. So my mom, being addicted to drugs and alcohol, gives birth to me. And then I had another, I have a younger sister. She was born a year and 10 months after me. She has a different father than me. My father was never really around, and a lot of that was because him and my mom used to really fight a lot, and there was always drug use involved, and they didn't really get along. And so dad wasn't around. My mom was right away using drugs and alcohol. She wasn't really a great mom from really the beginning. She wasn't, not that she wasn't a great mom, she desired to be, but I think she just didn't have the skills necessary to,
Right.
parent, have the things, needed. And so I had a lot of men in and out of the home. I was placed in unsafe situations. I had sexual assault as a kid.
Mm.
Then DCF took me away from my mom when I was 4 and my sister was 2. And it was because I said something to the upstairs neighbor about like what was going on. Because even at 4, I was changing my sister's diapers and caretaking, and I was,
Wow.
responsible for kind of adulting, and I had no idea. And I didn't know I wasn't supposed to say something, because to me, this is normal. And so the woman ended up calling DCF, and we ended up getting put into foster care. And my grandparents fought, for over 2 years to get custody. So at 5.5, just finishing kindergarten, I got custody and moved into their house. But during those few years prior, it was sexual assault from my mom's, people that she had in and out. And then I was also sexually assaulted in multiple foster homes as a
Oh,
kid at
God, that's
DCF.
horrible. Horrible.
Yeah, so right away, trauma right away, and I didn't know that it wasn't normal, because to me as a kid, this is just like what my life is.
Right. It's the patterns that you grew up with, so it was just what was expected, I guess, unfortunately.
Right, and I just kind of, like, dealt with it, and I didn't
Yeah.
know that I was not supposed to be, so, like, I just kind of, like, I don't know, I didn't really talk about it, and I didn't talk about it a lot because of the fact that my mom got mad when we DCF came, and it was, "Well, you talked about, to the neighbor, and you kinda caused this whole
Right.
to-do by
The
talking
guilt,
about."
the guilt that was put on you. Yeah. And I'm
Yep,
so
so
sorry all that happened to you.
thank you. Yeah, I mean, and it's just kind of like the very beginning of just like the threads of the common.
Yeah.
There's like that then this common thread of trauma and experiences that kind of life has handed me that I had no control over, really. There are things in my life later on we'll get to that I did have control over, but a lot of it I didn't. And so I get in my grandparents' custody, and the only time I saw my mom was in foster homes during visits. And then when I was at my grandparents' house, it was when we went to rehab, or we went to detox, or we went to the prison that she was in, or when she was home, she was always under the influence. She was never really able to stay sober.
Mm.
Um, she got sober for about a year, and she moved to Arizona to be with her high school sweetheart, who died of a heart attack. And my mom never ever ever was able to get over that, and she ended up she overdosed when I was 10 years old, so she passed away. I never had my dad around. He was just never involved. And my grandparents, like I said, my whole childhood was involved, taking care of my mom, going here. When she was using, it was like, get woken up in the middle of the night, go to Western Union, she needs money. It didn't matter, we were sleeping, it was always, and outwardly, my grandparents took us to church and painted this picture that, oh, they're in Girl Scouts and there's no way they could be having any issues. And I was having a lot of struggles, and behaviorally I was like overeating as a kid. I was stealing. I would steal people's paperwork and pretend it was mine, so like projects kids did in school, because I wanted to look better than I did.
Right.
I never wanted to be myself. um And so after my mom died when I was 10, I started using drugs. I started, smoking pot with older kids and hanging out because it was like I didn't fit in with anybody. I fit in with those kids, and I was able to steal money from my grandmother and go buy the drugs, and everybody's happy. And so I was like the young kid that then it became like I would try to outdrink everyone, or I would try to outsmoke people because it was everybody's, oh, look at her, look what she can do. And I was like the life of the party, or so I thought. And promiscuous behaviors, a lot of, I started getting arrested, I started skipping school. It was just a lot of at very young ages. I had behaviors that nowadays, somebody would attend to and say, this kid is clearly struggling, like something's not right. But it was like just ignored. I was punished for it, while my sister was the straight A, do everything, for all the praise. And she got to go to Florida and got to go to all these expensive trips, while I was like not included because I was struggling. And so, that has been something that, like, now that I'm a mom, I've had to work through trying to navigate the way I was raised and the way I don't want to raise my daughter. And we'll get to that too. But so, like, arrests and all these things. And at 16, I ended up getting arrested for physically assaulting my younger sister. And from 16 to 18, it was like incarcerations and programs. And then at 18, it was like, I'm an adult. You're not going to tell me what to do. And I didn't have my daughter yet. So it was like, I can just party, and I'm going to go live in all these people's houses because they're all using, and they're all, I had, I felt like I had a place where I fit in. And again, it was the same, like chasing these experiences and chasing. I was always, got to be with this guy, got to be with this
It
girl,
was
date
what
this.
felt comfortable, I would imagine, right?
Yeah, and the chaos. And it was just like I never could relax. And it was almost like, this is where some of the experiences that may have been traumatic, like, I had been so used to trauma that now I sort of like created it. And sort of like that was, I don't know, I was always just trying to survive from something, or I was always recovering from something, or I was always like, trying to dig myself out of this catastrophe, that a lot of it, looking back now, was self created. But I didn't know any better at the time. And I had no, I had no nothing. My mom had passed away. I had no dad. My grandparents were just not really supportive and didn't really understand that stuff. And then their health was declining too. My grandma had breast cancer. My grandfather had Parkinson's disease. So it's just like,
Wow.
again, taking care of them more so than them really parenting us. And
Right.
so, yeah, so just that happened. So then I'm 18, and I'm gonna, live my life, do what I want. And finally, I met this guy at a party, and I ended up hanging out with him, drinking. And he completely lied to me. And I believed every lie he sold me, that his house was his and he had his car. And none of it was true. He never even graduated. It was all his mother's stuff, but his mom was never around. So I never knew any better. And I got pregnant, and I said, this is going to be the thing. I have a thing that's going to love me. I'm going to love it. It's going to save my life. I'm going to, like, I placed
Mhm.
like all this responsibility on my daughter, and she was not even born yet. And it's like, well, this is like, she's the thing.
Yep.
But I believed it, and I got sober. I didn't smoke cigarettes. Started to get, I got my GED because I hadn't graduated high school. I got I started the 8-hour drug and alcohol thing for getting your license, driver's license. I was like, just about to be 21. I'm like, I'm an adult. I have arrived. This is it. I'm going to settle down. And, and it didn't. I just, like, he ended up using. I tried to stay sober, and he was fighting with me, and I ended up joining him to try to, like, I don't know, connect, try to have like our relationship back. And it was like, at first I would have my kid going to bed regular, and I would wait till nighttime. And I was like, well, the house is clean and she was fed and everything's still good and I'm functioning. And nope. it wasn't because I started yelling at her to go to bed earlier. And it was like, going now I'm middle of using. Now I'm leaving her in the playpen to go upstairs to drink or smoke and come back down and trying to be present. And physically I was there. So in my
Mhm.
mind, I was a great mom. And I wasn't at all. And there was a big, situation that happened, and I ended up having the police involved. I had to leave the house, and I didn't want her to come with me to be homeless and try to go to a shelter. And then I confessed that I had been using pills and heroin, and um, I hadn't used needles. So in my mind, again, I could just fix this. I'm going to go to detox. And detox, I met people and left with them. And it was like the same cycle. It's easier to live on the streets, it's easier to keep getting high, totally avoid. And in my mind, I would show up to visits. And because I was there, I was a great mom, and I never missed a court date. And I was present, and I wasn't present at all. And so again, like I finally get ahead, and then like that external thing took my relationship with my kid, and took my home. And so again, I figured, it's like one time I'm ahead, and now like here comes the downfall, here comes this traumatic thing. And so I finally confess. I then go, well, I'm going to get better. Nope. I kept using. It went downhill. I ended up being homeless. Kept getting arrested. I started prostituting. I was held up at gunpoint, and I said, you know what? This is it. This is the end. I am going to die. And I actually had like tried to put my foot on the drugs because the guy was trying to actually rob me. And I had a gun to my head, and my
Mm.
whole thought was, how am I going to get this drugs out of under my foot and out of the car safely? I didn't think about I
Your
have a kid
life.
at home. I didn't think I have a life. It was like I'm going to die if I don't get high at this point. And so like,
Wow.
but I'll die if I get high, and I'll die if I don't. And it's like at this point, it's like, no matter what, my life is just like there's no quality of it. I don't have my kid. I'm homeless, and like all I can think about is my next fix. And
Mhm.
so, um, you know, I said, you know what, I'm done. I went to detox, and I went and turned myself in, and I go to this halfway house, and I went while I was incarcerated. I used this time to like I got my yoga teacher certification while I was in there. I went to a recovery program. I started kind of like counseling other people. I started working at like the CO. I was cleaning in the middle of the night. So like I had a job, and I sort of like I remember the first time I bought Pantene on my commissary, and I was like, "Oh, I'm so cool." Like I earned something, and it was like the smallest thing in the whole world, but like I get grateful. Like I'm like going to cry talking about it because like it was something to like finally I felt like gratitude, and I finally was like I kind of like it was like a tiny glimmer of hope, like I can
Yeah.
maybe kind of like feel good for once. And so I had all these hopes and dreams, and like I was like I'm going to get my kid back, and I'm like I'm going to do this thing. And I go to the halfway house. I finally get pulled early, and I'm super excited. And I had a job because I had met like people through programs before, and everything was all set up. And I'm working, and it was like 4 months in, and I had enough money to get my own apartment. And it was Friday the 13th, the day before my birthday, and I was walking to catch the bus because the halfway house is like, you need to catch the bus. We don't want you getting rides. And it's just like their regulations and trying to do things the right way and follow the rules. And um, I was hit by a car at 55 miles an hour while I was walking. So it was like, I'm finally, almost just over a year sober. I finally am getting ready to get my own apartment. I'm like, I'm finally going to get my daughter back. This is going to be great. And I wound up in a coma for a couple of days. I wound up in the hospital for a few months. I went to a nursing home for almost a year. And
Wow.
so, again, big joyful experience followed by some like epic catastrophe. And so like that has been like the repetitive theme throughout most of my life. And but I wasn't giving up. At this point, I was like, I'm not giving up my recovery. So instead, I like advocated for people in the nursing home, and I started bringing meetings, and I started doing all these different things. And like somewhere, I really feel like it was the yoga and the Buddhist kind of stuff that I had worked on while I was incarcerated that kind of planted the seed, and plus different forms of recovery. So it wasn't just AA, it wasn't just NA in there. It was like all these different things while I was incarcerated. And so like in the halfway house and in the nursing home, I tried to bring a lot of like these other things with me because it helped me. And then somehow it just like me being the authentic person that I was, I like somehow realized like I radiated this healing energy to like other people. And I was like, this is a cool gift to have. And so I'm like, okay, well, I thought I would never be able to do yoga again. I thought I'd never be able to teach after I got hit by a car. I thought, I'm going to go home and I'm just going to do other things. And so I went home and I went back to working at the pizza place, and I didn't have my license yet, and I didn't do I was trying to get involved with recovery and stick with recovery, and I hadn't met my husband yet. I ended up meeting him, somewhere along the journey on like an online I was looking for friends. And so I kind of like things are kind of like looking up. I was at the nursing home, and they had this program you can get your own apartment. And so I signed up, and I ended up getting pulled for that. And so it's like again, all these great things are happening. And then there's a big argument with my sister who I now don't really speak to, and it's like again, great things are happening followed by some catastrophe. And is it of my own making? Sometimes. Is it of my not? Sometimes, but it's like again, trauma. And the only thing that's helped me get through that situation. And then, I started college, and I ended up having to get hernia surgery, so I ended up having to take time off, and all of that. And again, this big traumatic experience, but the only thing helping me is yoga, meditation, natural holistic things. And also, holistic for me doesn't just mean natural remedies. It's like looking at holistic, the whole
The
person,
whole
looking at
person.
like, yeah, my finances, my spirituality,
Mm-hmm.
my home environment,
Right.
my physical health. So I'm like trying to go back to yoga, go to the gym, do all these things. And so, I started getting time with my daughter. I started getting court to allow her to come have her sleepover, and I'm like hoping I'm going to get her back eventually. And her grandmother just was not allowing it to happen. And then so I finished college. I went to college for drug and alcohol counseling. I got my recovery support specialist certification. I'm doing all of those things, and I'm graduating college. And the day of my college graduation, here comes again a great experience, a wonderful thing that I should be super excited for. And I get the call that my daughter's grandmother has overdosed, and now she needs to come to my house full time, and at this time I had this job that I was taking care of a lady who was completely draining me. It was every day in home taking care of her, but like she was really emotionally abusive to me. But because I needed the money, I stuck with the job. And so I was looking forward to like a break after college graduation. So
Yeah.
I started my new job. I had got off a couple of different medications, and I'm trying to just use like natural stuff. And I started using medical marijuana because that was helping me instead of taking pain medication. And so I'm doing all of that stuff. And then my kid gets dropped in my lap, and I'm like, okay, now I don't have any time for myself. And I'm realized very quickly how unequipped I was for parenting, how unequipped I was for all of the issues that she had
Mm.
because of her experiences and my unresolved stuff that like just came up full force when she came into my home. And I'm trying to navigate it, and I'm doing all of the things, and just I'm still staying sober this whole time. And so like that was in 2023. My sober date was in 2016, so it's like what, 7 years sober at that point. And I'm like still dealing with like the repercussions, and I'm still dealing with wreckage from the past and cleaning up that stuff, and then trying to navigate making ends meet. I got this new job. She has all these issues, and I'm putting her in all the supports and I'm doing all the things that I possibly can.
Yeah.
And of course, her journey's her journey and it's not mine. And it's never enough for her because she has to figure her own stuff out. And so, like, you know, I ended up getting, like, during COVID, I ended up starting to work on my pardon. I found family in Maine that I didn't know I had. So, like, now we go to family reunions all the time. Um, but still, I mean, even like during, I got the job, the dream job that I wanted, and then I was let go because I spoke up about something. So like my job was eliminated and I got like laid off for the first time in my life of like a corporate job, like where I was doing in-home treatment for people. So I started my small business because I was like, well, I could just do in-home treatment for people and I don't need to work for somebody else, and I can kind of navigate instead of being boxed into what this treatment program is going to allow me to do. I
Right.
can meet people where they're at. I can, do all these different things, and I can sort of, I can teach yoga to them myself. I don't have to refer them out to somebody because I also teach yoga and I also do meditation. And then I started getting certified in all these different, like, mini things, crystals, herbs, holistic healing, energy healing, where I can like put my hands on, because I realized I have these cool gifts, and it's not all just let me sponsor somebody or let me just 12 step or let me just drug counseling. It's more like healing, because healing is like somebody maybe didn't use substances, or somebody maybe didn't have grief and loss, and somebody didn't have, all these things. And then so at the same time I'm navigating all this stuff, my sponsor from AA was in the hospital. She was dying. My car was hit 3 times, like within a very short amount of time. My bearded dragon died. It was like, again, just like loss after loss after loss. And then like now, I'm navigating a lot of things with my daughter and her issues, and like I'm trying to juggle my small business on top of working and trying to do, she's in IOP 4 days a week, so I have to drive her to and from school, and all of the things. And it could be a very, good reason to complain and go backwards, but again, like, healing others and being able to kind of go through all these experiences, and like having been through all the things I've been through, like, I don't know, it's kind of given me the ability to get through these things. And also, like, I don't have to be perfect. I don't have to be 100% fixed to be supportive to somebody else. And like, I always thought that I needed to be cured, or like I could only do AA, or I could only do this. And like, I go to 4 different kinds of recovery fellowships. I go to the gym, I teach yoga, I teach meditation, um I have probably like the strangest mix of stuff, because I teach people about cannabis and mushrooms, but I also am a certified drug and alcohol counselor. So like, it's like people
Right.
think it's like opposites. Like, I'm always at like the intersection of what never fits anywhere. And I've kind of like learned that maybe like that's where I'm supposed to be. Maybe I don't need a group. I don't need a, like, oh, I fit here and that's where I belong. It's like I kind of like just flutter everywhere. And that's kind of like given me all of these different experiences, but then also given me the ability to have the experiences to give back to others. So I guess that's kind of like my story in a nutshell. There's probably a million things I left out. But I think the hardest thing now I'm dealing with is self-care, learning that it's okay to be joyful, and joy and the letdown, or whatever the trauma, the catastrophe, they don't have to go hand in hand. One doesn't mean the other one is coming. They all kind of are what they are, and then like life is happening, and I'm here, and life isn't happening to me, and I don't have to be the victim of it. So I'm like navigating all these different things. But this year I'll have 10 years sober, and
Congratulations. That is
thank you.
such a major accomplishment for all the things that you have been through. It is a testament to your strength of your tenacity and your determination and just your own you know, wanting to really better yourself. And I feel like you just want to get out there and help other people, and that's like your purpose
Right.
and that's going to heal you is to help heal others. Sometimes we have to go through all this trauma and realize that these were the lessons that we had to learn in order to be able to pay it forward to help others to go take their steps on their own journey.
Exactly. It's like, I wonder, why am I going through this? Why am I going through this? And sometimes it's like, in it, I can't see it. But looking back, there was a reason for everything I've gone through. And I'm in a much better spot because of it. So
Absolutely. I know there's day-to-day struggles still, but Mel, you are doing amazing. From where
thank
I
you.
sit, I think you're doing amazing.
Thank you.
And I know it's not easy. So, looking back at your path that you've traveled, what's one unexpected strength or insight that you discovered in yourself that you didn't know was there before?
I think the ability to sit with discomfort, I always thought that I couldn't. And so, like, from 10 years old until 26, when I got sober, it was always chasing external experiences, chasing substances, chasing whatever that is. And like, now I'm not perfect. I have my days where I'm like, I don't want to feel this, or sometimes it's just too much. But I've gotten much better at sitting with discomfort. And I think, again, like, yoga has helped me tremendously because, like, getting in an uncomfortable position and breathing through it and not rushing out of it just because it's terrible and it feels awful is like, I can do that off my mat too. And I kind of like apply that elsewhere. And I never knew I had that ability.
That's a great way of thinking about it, right? We do have to have those uncomfortable moments and just be able to mentally, physically, emotionally work our way through them. And I love what you said too about, knowing that it's just I'm in this environment, right? And it's not that it's happening to me, it's just happening around me. And I think
Hmm.
that mindset really can help to put things into perspective, knowing that not everything is coming at you personally. It's not like a personal attack necessarily. And it's how you end up handling the situation that will be the biggest outcome, right?
Exactly.
So you've had to navigate an awful lot in this process, with different types of healings. So what's one daily practice that currently brings you a sense of most peace and stability?
Well, there's two things. I think using my breath and just kind of like being able to just be present, even if it's for 1 second. There are days where I can't. Sometimes I'm just so busy and I'm doing all these different things, or life is just happening and my brain is going a mile a minute and whatever. Sometimes I can't be present for, more than what feels like a minute, and that's okay. It's not judging myself for it, but really just like kind of reminding myself to just, it's a practice. It's a practice to remain, present. And using my breath to do that has been the key thing. And then I think also, somewhere along the line, people were always looking for triggers or activators or like these negative things, and somebody mentioned glimmers or little positive things. And so I know, even if it's just one thing, again, just one little small, okay, I like the sunrise, or, I really like the way my butt looks in these pants today, or like, oh, these shoes are comfortable. Like, one little something really small. It doesn't have to be a big thing.
Yeah,
So finding that thing.
that's a great piece of advice. If you could talk to your younger self and give you some advice, what would you say?
Um, that I don't have to please people all the time. My entire life doesn't need to be about caretaking for other people, and that I'm important, because I think I developed this, like I said, from very early on, taking care of my sister, taking care of my grandparents, parenting my kid because I thought it was going to save me. And then I've always, for jobs, taking care of others and counseling and supporting other people. And like, if I didn't learn that I was important, there's no way I'd be able to support other people this long or be able to stay sober through this process. And I wish I learned that at such a young age. I really wish I learned it so much earlier. I could have avoided maybe a lot of different things, but also, do I want to have avoided things that maybe formed me and shaped me into who I am today? I don't know. So it's a
Right.
thinker.
Yeah. Well, this has been great, Mel. I really appreciate you being vulnerable and so open with us so that hopefully your courage and tenacity is a true inspiration to other ladies out there, or really anyone that's listening. So
Right.
thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
As always, it's a pleasure. And our audience can find you, Mel, on our directory because you are one of our practitioners that can help with all the things that you mentioned, especially for those that are in recovery, which I applaud you for very much. And of course, also on your own website, which is honeybeejasminehealing.com. And for all the ladies that are out there that are just truly looking to connect, to learn more about wellness practices specifically for women, please check out our website at limitlessladiesnetwork.com, where we have several events coming up. We've got Stability in the Stables, where we're doing some things with women, which will be really fun, some empowerment things. We also have a ladies' night out happening June 17th. So check those out. Seats are limited for some of these things, so make sure that you get your tickets or come. The ladies' night out is actually just a pay your own way and a fun night for ladies to come out, have some dinner, and mingle with some ladies in wellness. Please share, leave a comment on our YouTube channel, follow us on Facebook, YouTube, and LinkedIn as well. We're also on Instagram. So we hope to hear from you and leave your comments. Thank you.